The afternoon in the countryside was peaceful, almost still. The sound of the wind in the leaves and the distant songs of a few birds created a false sense of peace. In the backyard of a simple house, surrounded by vast fields and ancient trees, little Michael played alone, stacking pebbles as if they were castles of forgotten kings. He was only 6 years old, but his eyes carried a weight many children don't know: the exhaustion of watching his mother cry in secret. Anna, on the other side of the window, washed the dishes with a sad smile. She knew her son's joy was fragile, sustained by fantasies and the hope she fought to keep alive. But that day, something different was approaching, and it wasn't coming from the wind. The roar of an engine tore through the afternoon silence like unexpected thunder. A luxurious, shiny black car barreled down the dirt road, kicking up dust. Michael watched curiously, his castles crumbling in the wind. Anna stopped scrubbing the dish and froze in front of the window. She knew that sound, that car. Her heart raced as if trying to escape her body. "Michael, keep playing outside, okay?" she said in a voice that tried to sound normal. The boy nodded absently. Anna wiped her hands on her apron and went to the door. A man in an expensive suit got out of the car, his face tense, his eyes cold. Robert Thompson had returned, and not out of kindness. Robert stepped out of the car with sharp, deliberate movements. His Italian suit was immaculate, shoes polished like mirrors, an image completely at odds with the dusty countryside. He didn't wait for Anna to speak. "You've got a lot of nerve threatening me," he hissed, his voice low and venomous. Anna didn't flinch. "Come around back. We need to talk, away from little ears." She led him past the house toward the backyard, where the old stone well stood like a relic of forgotten times. Michael, a few meters away, kept playing, unaware of the storm unfolding. Robert's presence was like a shadow stretching over their home, dark and full of intent. Anna knew this moment would change everything. 6 years, Anna began, her voice firm despite the tremor in her chest. "For 6 years, I've kept quiet, raised our son alone, asked for nothing." Robert scoffed. "Our son? Don't flatter yourself. You were just a maid who didn't know her place." Anna's eyes didn't waver. "I have the DNA results. And I have documents. Files you didn't erase when you fired me. Embezzlement, shell accounts, forged signatures." For a second, Robert's expression cracked, fear flickering behind the arrogance. He stepped closer, eyes narrowed like a predator. "You don't have proof." "I do," she said calmly, "but I don't want to ruin you. I just want help with Michael's treatment. He's sick, Robert. He needs you." That was when the rage truly showed. The animal stopped right in front of the open window. For a few seconds, it simply watched. The chimpanzee's eyes were a deep brown with a strange melancholy in them, as if it understood the pain that reigned in that house. In absolute silence, it leapt nimbly inside. It made no sound, not even when its feet touched the wet basement floor. Isabela froze. Her heart raced. She didn't know if this was a dream, a miracle, or the beginning of something even more frightening. But in that look, there was something different. It wasn't ordinary animal. It seemed to know.
Isabela didn't scream. Something deep inside told her not to. The chimpanzee took a slow step toward her, its head tilted slightly, as if assessing her pain. Then, with unexpected gentleness, it crouched down and extended one hand. Isabela, trembling, reached out. The touch was warm, soft, alive. Tears welled up in her eyes, not from fear, but from something she hadn't felt in a long time. Safety. The chimpanzee's gaze didn't shift. It stayed with her, like a silent guardian pulled from some forgotten legend. Upstairs, a door creaked. Heavy footsteps echoed. Roberto was awake. The chimpanzee turned its head sharply toward the ceiling. Its expression shifted. Calm melted into alertness. Isabela froze, instinctively clutching the animal's hand tighter. The footsteps grew louder, descending the stairs toward the basement door. The chimpanzee stood up slowly, placing itself between Isabela and the staircase, as if it already understood the danger. A guttural growl escaped its throat, low, almost imperceptible. but filled with intent. The lock above clicked. Isabella's breath caught. The door began to open, and a sliver of dim hallway light spilled into the basement. Roberto was coming. Roberto stepped into the basement, his silhouette looming like a shadow cast from hell itself. His breath reeked of alcohol, his belt hanging loose in his hand. "Thought you could sneak out, huh?" he slurred, scanning the darkness. Then he saw it. The chimpanzee. For a moment, his mind couldn't comprehend what stood between him and the child. "What the hell?" he mumbled. The chimp didn't move. It stared directly into Roberto's eyes, unblinking. Something about that stare made him hesitate. It wasn't wild. It wasn't afraid. It was warning him. A silent, deliberate challenge. And Roberto, for the first time in years, felt fear. Roberto took a step forward, raising the belt like a weapon. "Get out of here, you freaking animal!" But his voice cracked mid-sentence. The chimpanzee didn't flinch. Instead, it straightened its back and released a low, deep sound. Not quite a growl, not quite a scream, but ancient and primal. Then, it moved. In a blur of muscle and instinct, it launched at Roberto, striking his arm and knocking the belt across the room. Roberto stumbled backward, shocked more by the speed than the pain. The chimp didn't attack further. It stood still again, breathing heavily, body tense. It hadn't come to hurt. It had come to protect. Roberto scrambled to his feet, his pride now more wounded than his body. "You think you're tough?" he spat, grabbing a rusted pipe from the shelf. Isabela cried out, "Please don't!" But the chimpanzee didn't back down. It stepped sideways, subtly positioning itself to shield the girl completely. The light flickered above them, casting jagged shadows across the concrete floor. Roberto swung the pipe, but the chimp ducked effortlessly, grabbing his wrist mid-swing. In one fluid motion, it twisted his arm just enough to drop the weapon. Roberto howled in pain, collapsing to his knees. The chimp stood over him, not attacking, simply watching, waiting for him to understand. Roberto stared up at the chimpanzee, panting, sweating, humiliated. The basement felt colder now, the storm outside raging louder than ever. For a long second, no one moved. Then, slowly, the chimp backed away, still facing him, still protecting Isabela with its body. It wasn't revenge it wanted, only peace, only safety for the child behind him. Isabela reached out, her small fingers brushing the chimp's back. It turned, gently placing a hand on her shoulder, as if to say, "You're safe now." Roberto didn't speak. His mouth moved, but no words came. He had been defeated, not with brutality, but with purpose, with a kind of strength he couldn't understand. The chimpanzee turned fully towards Isabela now, kneeling down to meet her eyes. She wrapped her arms around its neck, sobbing into its fur. It didn't move, just held her, still, solid, present. Outside, the storm began to soften. Thunder faded into distant rumbles and rain slowed to a whisper. For the first time in what felt like years, the house felt breathable, safe. Roberto crawled backward, stunned and broken, until he disappeared up the stairs without a word. The basement door slammed shut behind him. Isabela and the chimp remained in the silence, hearts pounding together in a fragile rhythm of survival and trust. Later that night, Isabela led the chimpanzee up the basement stairs, her small hand gripping its fingers. The house creaked with each step, but it no longer felt haunted, not while the creature was beside her. In the kitchen, she found a towel and dried the rain from its fur. The chimpanzee sat patiently, watching her with eyes that held stories. She offered it a bruised apple from the counter, and it accepted gently, as if understanding the kindness in her gesture. They sat in silence, sharing the fruit, the warmth, and something deeper, a bond beyond language. For Isabela, he wasn't just a chimpanzee. He was hope, in the shape of a miracle. Days passed, and Isabela's secret protector stayed by her side. The chimpanzee moved through the house quietly, avoiding the creaky floorboards and shadows. When Roberto returned, drunk and angry, the animal vanished like a ghost, but never far. One evening, as Roberto raised his fist again, the chimp appeared in the doorway. The air thickened with tension as the man's rage met the chimp's calm resolve. Without a sound, the chimp stood firm, eyes burning with silent warning. Roberto faltered, swallowed by an unfamiliar dread. That night, something changed. The house shifted from prison to refuge, guarded by a silent sentinel who refused to be ignored. Word of the strange protector spread quietly through the neighborhood. Whispers told of a mysterious chimpanzee watching over the girl with eyes full of wisdom and fire. Some thought it was a ghost, others a spirit of justice. But to Isabela, it was simply the only friend she'd ever known, the only being who saw her pain and didn't turn away. Each night, as she drifted to sleep, she felt the steady presence nearby. It was a comfort that no words could explain, a promise etched into the shadows. She would never be alone again. And somewhere deep inside, Isabela knew her life was about to change forever. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered weakly through cracked windows, Isabela found the courage to ask the chimpanzee a question she'd held inside for so long. "Why did you come to me?" The chimp tilted his head, as if hearing her words not just with ears, but with understanding. Then, slowly, it reached out and touched her cheek, soft, reassuring. No words came, but in that silent moment, Isabela felt a message clearer than speech. She was worthy of kindness, and there was hope even in the darkest places. The bond between them deepened, no longer just protector and protected, but something like family. But peace was fragile. One evening, sirens wailed in the distance. Neighbors had finally noticed the abuse. Social workers arrived, their faces filled with concern. Isabela clung to the chimpanzee as the officers entered the house. Roberto was arrested, shouting threats and curses, but his voice was drowned by the quiet strength radiating from the chimpanzee. The creature stood between Isabela and the chaos, a shield born not of violence, but of unwavering loyalty. For the first time, Isabela felt safe enough to look ahead, to a future where she might finally be free. In the days that followed, Isabela was placed with a kind foster family. The chimpanzee, however, was nowhere to be found. She searched every corner of the house, every whisper of the wind, hoping for a sign of her silent guardian. Then, one quiet evening, a soft tapping came at the window. There stood the chimp, eyes gleaming with the same gentle wisdom, a silent promise that he was still watching, still protecting from afar. Isabela smiled through tears. Some bonds, she knew, could never be broken. No matter where life led, the chimpanzee would always be her hero. Years passed, and Isabela grew stronger, carrying the memory of her unlikely protector close to her heart. The chimpanzee became a legend whispered among those who had glimpsed his quiet courage, a symbol of hope in a world too often cruel. Sometimes, late at night, she'd dream of his soft eyes watching over her, reminding her that even in the darkest storms, light could be found. And though they were apart, their bond remained unbroken, a silent testament to the power of kindness, bravery, and an unexpected friend who showed that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes, they come on 4 legs and a heart bigger than most.